All right, Mike. It's 10 after. Let's do Berkeley time and get started.
All right. That's my key to officially say good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Civil and Environmental Engineering contribution to this year's orientation. My name is Mike Cassidy. I'm a professor here in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, or as we say, CEE for short. More recently, in the last couple of years, I've had the pleasure of serving as one of the department's several vice chairs. And my role as vice chair, or you could say my portfolio, if you want, has to do with undergraduate studies. So I guess that's why I have the pleasure of being here today and to help moderate our session for the next 30 or 40 minutes or so. I'm very happy and I'm very relieved to say that I'm not here alone. As you can see, the woman standing to the right of me, I guess to the right of your screen, is our department undergrad student advisor, Julia Konopasik. I'm very happy. It's very comforting to have Julia here because, as you will find out as a student here over time, that so far as orientation is concerned, Julia is probably the best oriented of all of us with regards to course requirements and what it means to be an undergrad and how to navigate your way through the system. So what I'm going to say is that during this little brief presentation that we have today, I hope if there's at any time you want to ask a question or make a comment, please, I want to encourage you to do so. We can make this as interactive as possible. And you have two formats by which you can ask a question. Some of you have already discovered that through the chat, you can pose your question that way. But another way to do it, for those of you who are less shy, and I hope all of you are not shy, you can ask to share my screen. Isn't that right? Somewhere on your screen out there, even though I can't see you, and I certainly can't see your screens, but somewhere you have an opportunity to request to be shared, in which case I will admit you and your face will appear and all of your fellow students will see you, and that's a much more sort of personable, less isolating way to ask questions or give comments. Huh? Anything else I should say before we get started, Julia?
I think that's good.
All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to learn a little bit about this CEE department, what its programs are, what it has to offer. We're going to talk a little bit about what's expected of you. But before we get started talking about and learning about the department, I thought it would be a good idea if we spent a few minutes learning about ourselves and about each other. Now, it just so happens I have this kind of very special diagnostic, and I'm going to try to share the screen here. Let's see if that works. I don't know if this is working. Julia, you tell me. Can you see this screen?
Not yet.
Okay, that means I'm doing something wrong.
Well, it seems to take a couple seconds, too.
Oh, well, maybe my wrong is that I'm impatient. What do you think? Can you see it now?
No, I cannot.
Okay.
Can anybody else see it? Probably not.
Probably not. I'm having, it doesn't want to let me share. That's the problem. Can't see it. Sharon can't see it either. And I'm pressing the share button and it just maybe. Huh. This is not good. You don't. Nothing, huh?
Nope, I don't see anything.
Bear with us, folks. It's just not letting me share.
Okay, do you want me to try? Is it the slideshow?
Yeah. You want to try to show the slides?
Mm-hmm. I can try. You see it?
I don't. Now wait. Now I can do it. I skipped a step. I'm sorry, everybody, but believe me, this is going to be worth the wait. How about now?
I can see it now.
How about you, students? Can you see it? I'm very excited. Okay, as I was promising you, I have a very special diagnostic to help us get to know about ourselves. And here's how the diagnostic works. I'm going to ask you in sequence 3 very probative questions in sequence, one at a time. Now, each question is going to have a set of possible answers that I'd like you to respond to. You'll see the questions by looking at your poll option on your screen. Okay. The thing to remember about all this is that each possible answer for every question has a certain number of points associated with it. And I'll announce what those points are in due course. What I want you to do is I want you to answer each question one at a time. You can only give one response. And then after all the answers are communicated, I'll tell you what the scores are. And then we're going to keep track of the scores across these 3 questions. And we'll see what that reveals about us. Is that pretty clear? Yeah? Okay, so without further ado, Sharon, you're out there in the ether. Would you be kind enough to share the first poll question? And I can't see anything. So Julia, can you tell me, is the poll question showing up?
So in order to do that, students, I don't think I realized this.
Okay.
But you have to, where your chat is on the right-hand side, you have to click over to the word polls. So then you should see the first question.
Right. You do have to click on the option poll. Julia, how about you? Do you see the question?
I do.
And I'm going to hope everybody press the button poll if you haven't done that, and you'll see the first question. And so without further ado, here's the first question, a very important one. Which of the following skills would you most like to master? And you'll notice you have 4 possible answers. One of them is solving partial differential equations. That might be the best skill you'd like to master. Or you might like to learn a new language. And here I'm talking about a human language, be it French or Italian or Arabic or whatever. Option 3 would be to be able to converse with animals. That would be the skill you'd like to master. And then finally, option 4 would be advanced thermodynamics. So what I'd like you to do is to enter. You can only pick one of those responses. I'd like you to pick one and enter it, and then we'll see how the scores go. Julia, I'm flying blind here. Our answers coming in?
And they are coming in.
Thank you, everyone, for playing along with this.
Let's see, 10.
You let me know, Julia, when you think all the answers have been recorded.
I think you're pretty much there.
All right. Well, that's very exciting. So here we go. Now, what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you the points associated with each possible response. So if you picked either of the first 2 options, that is to say, if you picked either solving PDEs or learning a new language, give yourself 3 points. Write that down. Keep track of that. On the other hand, if you answered conversing with animals, yeah, you can give yourself something, but just give yourself 1 point. My reason is because I think, conversing with animals would be fine, but I'm just not convinced that they have anything really interesting to say. All right. So thank you, Julia, for laughing. It's good to have a little soundtrack there. Finally, let's see. That brings us to the 4th question. If you answered that the skill you'd most like to master is advanced thermodynamics, I'd like you to subtract 4 points from your score. And I take away points because, well, there's a reason here. I think you're displaying an excessive affection for mechanical engineering, which I don't like very much. So there you go. That's the first question. Now there's 2 more. I've got to warn you, the second question is kind of politically sensitive, and normally I would shy away from something like that, but I think the probative value really makes this worthwhile. So Sharon, if you will, would you share the second poll question? And everybody look at it by looking at your poll tab. Can you see that, Julia?
Oh, okay. I have to scroll down to see it.
Oh, you have to scroll down. So everybody learn from Julia's mistakes. Scroll down.
Scroll down.
Do you see it, Julia?
I do.
All right. Well, question number 2, and I'm hoping all you in the audience, even though I can't see you, I hope you're seeing question number 2 is who of the following is your favorite U.S. president? Okay, and you have 4 options here. Abraham Lincoln is option 1, or you can pick Franklin Roosevelt, or Ronald Reagan, or Bernie Sanders, or your last option is Vladimir Putin. So think for a minute, choose wisely, and pick the one person who of these presidents is your favorite. All right, our answers coming in?
They are coming in.
All right, you tell me, Julia, when to announce the winners.
Not quite there yet. Still waiting for a couple more votes.
Oh, well, that's fine. I think people should take their time on this question. It's an important one. What do you think? Should we go?
Yep, I think you're ready.
All right, listen. If you chose any one of the first 3 presidents, Lincoln, Roosevelt, or Reagan, give yourself 3 points. And I want you to notice I'm not being bipartisan. All right? Both parties represented here. Now, if you pick Bernie Sanders, option 4, you're obviously a very imaginative person. You can envision for the country a very different kind of future. So for that, you should give yourself 4 points. However, on top of those 4 points, you have to subtract 6. The reason you have to subtract 6 is because evidently you don't realize that Bernie Sanders is not going to be president. Okay, finally, and very importantly, did anyone select Vladimir Putin?
Yes.
Okay, very good. For that, you can give yourself 6 points, and that's because you clearly understand current events. Okay, good. Now, keep track of your score.
You are tricky.
Yeah.
This scoring system is tricky. I was trying to figure it out, but I haven't gotten it yet.
Well, the scoring system is my own, and this is what happens when I'm a moderator. The power goes right to my head. Okay, keep track of your scores so far. 2 questions have been asked. Sum up the points you have. All right. Now, if you're not doing well, do not despair, because frankly, to be perfectly honest, the third question is the most important question. It's the question where the most points are associated with the answer. So it's the question for all the marbles. Sharon, without further ado, would you reveal the third and final question?
I see it.
You see it.
I scroll down and I see it.
Everybody else has scrolled down and seen it. The question is this: which of the following is your favorite Major League Baseball team? All right, now if you have another favorite, pick the one that is a favorite among the options that you have. And please notice that I'm emphasizing here baseball team. All right, so your options are the San Diego Padres, the New England Patriots, the Oakland A's, the San Francisco Giants, and then finally the Los Angeles Dodgers. So again, important question. Take your time. Give the answer when you're sure. Julia, when are the answers coming in?
They're coming in.
This is very exciting. If only I could see it.
Yeah, it is. It's very fun to watch the answers.
I'm missing out on all the fun. Well.
We have a couple more we're waiting for.
All right, that's fine. People should take their time. All right, what do you say? Should we go over the answers and the points?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right. So if you chose the San Diego Padres as your favorite team, give yourself 4 points. And by the way, that's called charity. Okay. If you chose the New England Patriots, clearly you don't know what's going on, and I kind of like that. So you can give yourself 6 points. Now, if you chose the Oakland A's, I want you to give yourself 0 points, and that's because being an A's fan is literally pointless. All right.
Hey, they're doing well this year.
Okay, yeah, as most years. Okay, until the end of the season. Anyway, regarding the Giants, if you pick the Giants as your favorite team, there's something you need to understand. The Giants won their first World Series in 2010. So if you pick the Giants in honor of the year 2010, give yourself 10 points. Yeah, that's a big one. Now, but don't forget, the Dodgers last won a World Series in 1988. So if you pick the Dodgers, subtract 88 points. Wait, on second thought, if you're a Dodger fan, maybe you should subtract 100 points. Okay, that's it then. That's the end of this diagnostic. The thing now is let's tally the 3 scores and let's see what this means. And here's what it means. If you scored in total more than 7 points, then you did very well on this diagnostic, and you should be pleased with yourself. On the other hand, if you scored less than minus 20 points, you're very clearly a Dodger fan, and that means you're more confused than the folks who picked the Patriots for their favorite baseball team. All right, this is very good. Thank you for playing along. We now have a little bit of information about ourselves and each other. Now let's get a little information about Berkeley's Civil and Environmental Engineering Department. Okay. Now, someone once told me long ago that whenever you give a presentation, you should always lead with your strengths. So here's what I'm going to say. You may have heard that our Berkeley CEE department is ranked #1 in the nation. And a question we might ask about that is, how did that happen? How is it that we became #1? How is it that we've been #1 for quite a while? Well, there might be several reasons for that, but here's one of the very important reasons. As I say here in the slide, it is absolutely true that any academic department, be it CEE or anything else, is never better than its students. Yeah. So our #1 ranking in CEE is really a testimony to the high quality students that we have. It's a testament to the quality of the incoming class, you guys in this case, as well as to those students who came before you. The simple reality is in CEE, we are a community. And as a community, we're always excited about a new incoming class because we know that that incoming class, like all the classes before it, is going to help contribute to our legacy. Yeah. And we know that individually and collectively, you're going to help reaffirm and advance our departmental standards or our norms. Now, what do I mean by norms or standards? Well, it's very simple. Okay. We are a community of scholars, and we are unified by a common interest in the broad field of civil and environmental engineering. Now, as scholars, we think of ourselves as being top-notch. But truly, our greatest strengths do not lie in our individual achievements or our individual skills or our individual accomplishments. Our greatest strengths really are communal. They are the collective strengths that come from the group and from the community. Okay. In one way or another, our successes are all collaborative and cooperative. And that's something that we try to always keep in mind. So let me give you an example of what I mean by trying to work together collaboratively and cooperatively. An example is this. It is certainly true that professors are by and large responsible for teaching courses, and it's equally true that by and large students are responsible for learning the course material. But to the extent possible, in our Berkeley CEE community, we try to always view teaching and learning as kind of a joint and collaborative enterprise. And I think it's fair to say that our department's tendency and our inclination to work collaboratively has never been more important than it is right now. Because with this pandemic and its effects, which include social distancing in one form or another, and also include the care we need to exercise and the caution we need to exercise to try to prevent ourselves and others from contracting this nasty little virus, all these things can be rather isolating. And just as the pandemic has had an isolating effect on much of the world, well, it's having a similar kind of effect on our campus. We have remote learning now, and we have remote mentorship, remote meetings, and we even have remote orientations. And again, all of this can be very isolating. I'll just mention for what it's worth, it's isolating even to old timers like myself. I've been teaching here for more than 25 years, and I would say, professionally speaking, the last 6 months have been really the most difficult. And I suspect that I have colleagues and that there are other staff members across the campus who kind of share that same view. These have been difficult times. But I'll also add that as difficult as these times might be for faculty and staff, I think they're even more difficult for students. After all, students have kind of a natural inclination to kind of build relationships, to build friendships, to get to know new people and to study with them and to socialize with them and to get to know them. And all this remote stuff is setting kind of a monkey wrench in the works. And I think perhaps, as hard as it is for all students, it's probably hardest for incoming new students like yourself. Whether you're a freshman or an incoming transfer student, the challenges ahead of you are kind of difficult because even in the best of times, even without this nasty pandemic, it's difficult to be a new student in a university. I mean, you have to get kind of used to a whole new way of life. You have to learn how the system works. You have to learn how to navigate this institution to make things work for you. And that's difficult in its own right. But now when you add to it the layer of the virus and the remoteness of learning and the care we need to exercise to keep each other safe and well, that makes things all the more difficult. Yeah. Still, as difficult and as challenging as things can be, it is kind of incumbent upon all of us to make the best of things, to make this coming semester and this coming year as successful and as fruitful and as pleasant and as enjoyable as it can possibly be. And I think the way we're going to do that is kind of by redoubling our efforts and re-recognizing that we are a community, we are a collaborative unit, a family, and we need to work together with that in mind. Okay. Now, in terms of working collaboratively in the face of these challenging times, part of the responsibility for doing that is going to rest on the faculty. Okay. And something we've done, let me give you an example of how the faculty is trying to hold up its end this coming semester to work collaboratively to making this semester the best one possible. Something that we've done, I think, for the first time in a long time, is we've assigned 9 of our faculty to serve as undergrad advisors for incoming students, for first-year students, okay? And you see the names of those 9 faculty as well as some of their pictures. Now, if you happen to be an incoming junior transfer, your advisor will be Demetrius Konstantinidis, all right? If, on the other hand, you're an incoming freshman, your advisor will be one of the 8 names who are listed on the left-hand side of your screen, okay? Now, you have been informed of who your advisor is. Late last week, Julia sent you an email message. However, if you happen to lose that message or if the message didn't arrive for any reason, do get in touch with Julia to find out who your academic advisor is, because the academic advisor is there to help you. And in many circumstances, I think the advisor can be very helpful. All right. Here's an example of how we hope you're going to find your academic advisor helpful. Come this October, you're going to meet with your advisor one-on-one. You'll probably have to do it remotely, but if things change, maybe it can be done face-to-face. And the academic advisor is going to work with you to help you plan your courses for the coming spring semester. And on top of that, the academic advisor can work with you in October to help you do some more curricular planning to sort of map out tentatively what your course of study will be during your time here pursuing your bachelor's degree. So again, let me reiterate. The faculty advisor can help you with course selection and curriculum planning, but the advisor can help you with other things as well. Sometimes you need somebody to talk to, just to talk to, or sometimes you need a little bit of advice or a little bit of guidance. Suppose, for example, in the early weeks, you find yourself having difficulty getting acclimated to your courses and you want to talk to somebody about it, maybe get some advice. Well, then consider talking to your advisor, okay? He or she can be there to help. But there's something else I want to add as well. Although you do have a faculty advisor, in our department, we have about 30 other additional faculty and staff who have not been officially assigned as advisors, but these are people from whom you can also seek advice. Again, if you want to talk about classes or the civil engineering profession, or you just need somebody to talk to because you're feeling isolated or you're not sure about something on this campus, it's good to seek advice from these people as well. So seek advice from your advisor, seek advice from other faculty and staff whom you get to know. You'll have to be kind of proactive because these days in the virtual remote realm, you can't meet people casually in the hallway or you can't come to their offices to talk to them because we're told we shouldn't be in our offices. We need to be working at home to the full extent possible. So you need to make the kind of proactive effort sometimes to get in touch because, for example, your faculty advisor will get in touch with you by October. But what if he or she doesn't contact you before October and you need to talk to someone? Well, think about the advisor. And of course, it's also a good idea to get to know your fellow students to the extent you possibly can in this remote virtual environment. Sometimes it's good to talk to upperclassmen who've been around a few years and have learned the ropes. And other times it's good to talk to fellow incoming students, maybe just to commiserate or compare notes or something, or just to swap stories, okay? The point I'm trying to make from all this elongated discussion is this. Yeah, the faculty have a role to play in trying to build up collaborative communal efforts in making this semester the best one possible. But at the same time, you as incoming students also have a certain responsibility to try to hold up your end and work collaboratively to making this semester and this year as successful as it possibly can be. And one of the ways you can do that, as I've said, is try to be proactive and reach out to advisors and other faculty and staff and other students to get advice, to talk to someone when you need to. But what I'd like to do now, since I've been talking for far longer than I really like to do, I'm wondering if through the chat or by asking to share the screen, you might be willing to kind of give us some other advice, some other ideas, some other bullet points on how you as students can work proactively and constructively in the face of this isolated kind of world we're currently living in to try to make this semester effectively. Is that something you can do either perhaps by by offering a few pieces of advice or a few ideas through the chat, or maybe you could come and ask to share my screen. Would you be willing to do that and maybe share some ideas on how you can hold up your end to making this a cooperative and collaborative semester? And Julia, you can tell me, are we getting any input here?
Well, it looks like Xander has set up some kind of a group, which I don't really know what Discord is. Xander, if you wanted to ask to join, it would be so fun for you to get up here on screen and to talk about this group that you've.
Yes, Xander, this would be a great way of establishing connection. Maybe I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, so he's there. So can you see him? I'll let him in.
I will. Oh, you can let him in. Wonderful. I'm going to come out of this mode right now and let my face be shown. Hello, Xander. How are you?
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Welcome to our esteemed group of 3.
I actually didn't make that group, but somebody else did. Share the link. So Discord is an app you can get on your computer or your phone, and there's a bunch of different sections for all the different branches of engineering. And you can, there's a roles section where you'll get assigned to whatever major you want to join in, and they have separate chats for all of those. And so somebody set that entire thing up, and people can talk about whatever they want regarding engineering. So that could be helpful for student collaboration.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Xander. That's
sure.
Good. If there's nothing else, I'm going to make you disappear.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Okay, who else would like to join Xander, either through the chat or join us on screen here for a minute? Perhaps you could give us some further. That Xander's suggestion was quite excellent. It's kind of like forming a study group, only a large virtual study group where you can share ideas. What else? What else could we do? Any ideas?
There's one on the chat. Hudson says, I've heard from a lot of upperclassmen that going to office hours is really important to network with professors.
I think the upperclassmen are correct on this one, as they often are. Certainly your faculty and your graduate student instructors who are teaching the course are there to help you with questions you might have about the course material, be it homework, upcoming exams, whatever, projects. But you can even periodically, if you want, if you feel so inclined, feel free to check in during an office hour, just to sort of touch base. Get small talk with your faculty or GSI. Get to know him or her. See how they think.
So I put in the chat the link to our department website that lists the virtual front desk. If you could just go to ce.berkeley.edu, at the very top, you'll see a little scroll thing and a button that says virtual front desk. If you click on virtual front desk, then if you go all the way down to the bottom, don't look at my picture, just go all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see faculty office hours. And there's a link there that shows you all of the different faculty office hours for fall.
Yeah, and there's something else I want to add too. Don't be afraid to do the following. Sometimes the office hours don't work very well for you, or sometimes you need to speak with an instructor very soon and his office hour or her office hour isn't for several days. Send an email. Tell them you need 20, 30 minutes, whatever, to speak, and the faculty member will see you. Let me also mention something I forgot to say. Because these times are difficult, we CE faculty and staff have kind of recommitted to being especially sensitive to any requests you students might have to meet or discuss anything. So if you send any of us, including your course instructors, an email or a phone call saying you'd like to meet, I think you'll find that they're going to be very responsive.
Yeah,
Do take advantage of that. Do take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think office hours, a lot of times you think of them as being for, when you want to see the professor in your class, which is a great use of office hours, but it's not the only use of office hours. You can also go to office hours of faculty that you're not taking classes from.
Perhaps there's somebody you want to meet, find out what they're doing, find out what classes they're teaching in the future. Office hour is an excellent time to do that. It's a way of kind of feeling the connection and the community. What else?
And there is a, sorry,
No.
there is a Instagram, I don't know what you call it. I'm not really Instagram savvy, but it's at CalASCE. And they're doing a lot of great stuff, especially this week. They're pushing out a lot of stuff on Instagram. So if you want to follow Cal at ASCE, you'll learn a lot about what's going on in the student team and student organization world. So that's a really fun thing, I think, for this week. There's a department Instagram thing as well. And I think that's just at CEE, but I have to look it up. Does anybody else know? Do any of our students know our Instagram? Let's see. Type it in if you know our Instagram for the department.
Apparently not.
Man, this is terrible. Okay, I'll find
All right,
it.
listen out there, everybody. What other things can you think of doing that would be proactive and collaborative, trying to make this semester successful? What other things can you do besides visiting office hours, maybe getting involved in what Xander talked, logging on to what the platform that Xander mentioned? What else? What else? Going to office hours? What other things might you want to keep in mind as you begin this semester? Any ideas? Collaborate? Want to help me collaborate here? All right. Well, as it so happens, I have a couple of suggestions. So let me see if I can get back to the sharing mode quicker than last time. And I think I can, because I sometimes learn from my mistakes. Yeah. Here's some things. Julia, I'm assuming you can see my slide more or less?
I can. You do great.
Here's a piece of advice for what it's worth. You really want to stay on top of your courses. That's always true. You always want to stay current with the material that's being taught. But it's especially true now in this synchronous age or an asynchronous age. But if you're getting asynchronous lectures, my strong advice to you is don't wait 2 or 3 weeks to look at that short videotape. Look at it in the first few days that it's been posted, so you stay current with the course material. If you have synchronous lectures to attend and you're in a suitable time zone, I would really encourage you not to view the lectures after the fact on video, but to attend the remote lectures as they're actually occurring and to participate to the full extent that you can. Okay, that's the best way to stay on top of the material. It's very easy, even in the best of times, to fall behind. And now that everything's remote, I think it's even easier. So do try to stay current. Picking up again on what Xander talked about, or at least related to what Xander spoke about. Think about forming a virtual study group. Right now, I don't think 4 or 5 of you can get together in the undergrad library and sit around a table and work on, your calculus homework. But maybe you can do it through Zoom. Okay. Another excellent way to learn a bit about civil engineering and to feel connected is to join a competition team, be it the concrete canoe or the environmental engineering construction team, competition team, or the structures competition team. I understand you've had some presentations about the teams that we have in CEE, and you might want to consider joining one. And I'll say more about that in a few minutes. Also, you might want to join a society. There is, for example, the American Society of Civil Engineering, the ASCE. This year, Julia tells me that membership is free, so that's a bit of a bonus. And there's going to be a meeting, an information meeting Thursday at 5. So Julia, you've probably given the students the link to attending that meeting on Thursday, have you not?
I have, and I just put it on the chat as well. So
consider joining ASCE. There's also an honor society called Tau Beta Pi. And if you're invited to that, consider joining that as well. Here's another. Go ahead, Julia.
Chi Epsilon.
Oh, geez, Chi Epsilon. Thank you, Julia.
Sorry, I joined the right one.
Yeah, join the right one. Chi Epsilon. My goodness. Okay, let's see what happens when I go off script. All right, and one off possibility is tomorrow at 4 o'clock. There's a meet and greet, and I think you have the link to that. So do consider joining. Do consider attending that just to get to know each other and to get to know some of the faculty who will be there. Okay. All right. I want to move forward now and talk more about the department just for a few more minutes. We're kind of coming to the end of our presentation, but there's a few more things I want to say. I mentioned that, and as you already know, I think our CEE department is ranked #1 in the country across all universities. And we talked about how that came about. How is it that we became #1? And as I mentioned, it has a lot to do with our students, and it has a lot to do with our collaborative efforts. But the next question we might ask is, what are the advantages of being #1? I mean, does it really matter? Are there really benefits? And I think, in fact, there are some very significant benefits. Because I think being as part of this #1 department, there are opportunities here that I think few other CEE students in other departments, or other universities, I should say, in other CEE departments, have access to. Okay. And I think one of the ways those benefits show up here at Berkeley in our CEE department are the strong connections that we have between teaching and research. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. In your classroom, including even in your virtual classroom, you're going to have some professors who have dedicated their entire professional lives to advancing various subspecialties within civil and environmental engineering. Some of us are structural engineers, some of us are transportation engineers, others are environmental engineers, and so forth. But in any case, what I think you'll find is that research sort of colors and permeates classroom instruction. I think you're going to find that to be true, and I think you'll find that to be rather enriching. But on top of this, as an undergraduate student, you can do more with regard to research than just learn about it in lectures. Because historically, our department has had something we call the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program, which you see here maybe on the slide, and that we abbreviate as UROP. Now, with UROP, undergraduate students are able to work with faculty mentors in the laboratory. It starts in the sophomore year and continues in the junior and senior year, culminating with some final product that would ideally be a publication that would go into an archival journal, a professional journal. Now, the bad news is that the current pandemic has currently put the kibosh, has caused us currently to halt our UROP program, and that's because of public health requirements and of campus regulations in the face of this pandemic. But it is, of course, our extreme hope that this pandemic will be over soon, and as soon as things start loosening up a bit, we're going to reinstall our UROP program. And it's our hope that at the very latest, by the beginning of your sophomore year, you'll be able to learn more about this research opportunity and participate in it should you wish. Okay. In the meantime, again, I'd like to stress the value of joining a competition team to learn a bit more about civil engineering and to feel connected to the community. The other thing I can say about the advantages of our #1 ranking is that I think you will probably find that as a student, being part of a #1 program is going to open doors for you. It's going to open doors for you while you're studying in the form of summer jobs or internships, for example. And when you complete your bachelor's degree and you're graduating or about to graduate, I think you'll find that the #1 ranking opens doors for you in terms of your next step, whether you plan on getting a job and starting your professional practice, or whether you're interested in going on to graduate school, get a master's and possibly a PhD. I think both graduate programs throughout the country and employers throughout the country are fairly eager to get our Berkeley Civil Environmental Engineering undergrads because they understand that our students are really very well prepared. And when I say well prepared, I mean they're well prepared in terms of the fundamentals of math and science. They're well prepared in terms of engineering fundamentals and engineering science, like engineering mechanics, strength of materials, and those sorts of things. And especially, they're very well trained in courses that pertain specifically to the civil and environmental engineering domains. Now, with regard to these civil and environmental domains, let me just say right now that as you are pursuing your curriculum and as you are studying here at Berkeley, you may find yourself, as many students do, drawn to the idea of focusing on one or two specific subspecialties across civil and environmental engineering. So, for example, some students wish to focus heavily on structural engineering, or maybe they want to focus on a couple of things like structural and environmental, or environmental and geotech, or transportation and systems. That's fine. That's fine. But another option that's also available to you is to stay rather broad and to kind of sample courses from across the curriculum so you become well-versed in many aspects of civil engineering. I think the thing to keep in mind is that there's no right or wrong answer here on how you should prepare your curriculum. You should decide at some point, and you can update and change things as you go, but at some point you should decide, are you interested in focusing or are you interested in staying broad? Because either way is a good way to go. Okay. Now, of course, our curriculum has some downsides, and I think one of the downsides is, speaking frankly, is that historically our curriculum has been kind of segregated in the sense that as in your first 2 years of study, as freshmen and sophomores, that's where you tend to load up on the fundamentals. That's where you take your math and science classes. That's where you take your fundamentals of engineering science. And then only when you reach your junior and senior years do you start taking a lot of courses specifically in civil and environmental engineering. And a lot of our students have understandably felt that, well, they have to wait kind of a long time before they can really dive into CEE and learn more about what this field is all about. So we understand this concern and we appreciate it. And in response to that, we have been revising our undergraduate curriculum to try and respond accordingly to these concerns. So let me tell you what we've done here. Here you see kind of an outline of the curriculum that students take in their freshman and sophomore years. And indeed, you'll see it's rather heavy on fundamentals, but there are a couple of new courses we've added to try and give our freshmen and sophomores better familiarity about what CEE is all about. So for example, very recently, we've added an undergrad class to be taken in the freshman year in data science. And that's really in response to the directions that CEE and all the other engineering fields are going in. And on top of that, and very importantly, this year, for the first time, we've taken our old class, that we called CE 92, which you see here in red. In the old days, that course was just kind of a survey course that had a lot of guest instructors who would come in and talk about what's involved in various aspects of civil and environmental engineering. So maybe a structural engineer or a structural faculty would come in and talk about structures. And the next week, an environmental engineer would come in and talk about that field. And the next week, a transportation person would come in or a geotech person would come in. And you get kind of a broad but somewhat superficial view of what civil engineering is all about. Well, this year we've changed it and we've made CE 92 a design course. It's what we call a cornerstone design. It's where you students can kind of roll up your sleeves and kind of really learn in greater substance what CEE is all about. So what this cornerstone design course is going to be, well, it's going to be something like this. It's going to be taught this fall by Professor Scott Mora, and he's a very fine faculty member. And the other important thing to know about Professor Mora is that he is a member of the Civil Systems program. So our first offering of this new CE 92 design course is going to have a kind of a civil systems flavor to it. And as I understand it, the objective of the course is to work in a team and to design and perhaps construct a sort of mock prototype of almost anything that has to do with civil engineering systems. So you might develop a water purifying system, or you might develop a food preservation system, or you might develop a charging station for electric vehicles. There's all kinds of things you can do, and I believe the students are going to go ahead and choose the topics of their projects. Now, I imagine the delivery of this course is going to be impacted because of the virus and because of our need to learn remotely, but how that's going to happen, you can talk about that with Professor Mora, okay? Still, all in all, as you look at these courses, you'll see, well, yeah, the first couple of years, there's still a lot of fundamentals. And when we get to years 3 and 4, well, that's where we start taking a lot more of the CEE courses. And here you have kind of an embarrassment of riches in terms of the kind of courses you can choose from. Now, we divide our courses into CEE applications courses and CE extension courses, but within these, and we have also a capstone design course, which is a detailed design class. You'll design something in civil engineering. Maybe it's in the realm of geotech or environmental or structures or something else. All of you will take at least one of these capstone design classes, and some of you may opt to take two. But the thing I'm mentioning is, well, within these categories of CEE courses, we have many, many different courses that we offer. And to give you just a kind of a flavor of the options you will have with regard to CEE courses, I'm going to show you a couple of slides, and all these slides do is they list all of the courses that we offer typically in a single year. And what you'll notice from these slides, you don't have to read them all, but you'll notice that there's a great many of different courses that are offered. As I say, it's almost an embarrassment of riches. Now, this is a good thing, of course. It's great to have options. It's great to have the richness of this sort of breadth, and each course covering a topic in considerable depth. But it does make it challenging sometimes to figure out which courses you're going to want to take, which courses best meet your needs and your interests. In other words, how are you going to do curriculum planning? Well, you've had some experience with curriculum planning here on the campus. I understand you've already worked with Catherine Dang in the College of Engineering. And as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, you'll have an opportunity this October to start working with your faculty advisor in curriculum planning. But perhaps one of the most knowledgeable people on undergrad curriculum planning is here with us now, and that person is Julia. So I'm hoping, Julia, you might have some words of wisdom to impart on how students might think about planning their curriculum for the remainder of their stay here.
Wow, that's a great segue. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking over, because I'm getting really tired of talking, and I know people are getting tired of hearing me. So now the floor is yours.
Yeah, but the tricky thing is that there are some classes you have to have prereqs for. And there are some classes that are only offered once a year. So you have to kind of pay attention. And generally speaking, if you look at a class like CE 100, that's usually almost always offered in the fall. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be offered in the fall, because there could be something that changes. Like the professor who teaches it goes on sabbatical, and he's only gone for one semester, and therefore he's going to teach it in the spring. And that happens occasionally. So that can be a little bit tricky. And that's why sometimes talking to me when you're planning out your schedule helps. I usually know not quite a year in advance. So I know, like right now, what we're offering for spring. Come about December, I'll start to know what we're offering for the fall of next year. So I know like one semester in advance. So that's kind of tricky. The other thing that's tricky is on this spreadsheet where it says CE applications. One of the things that happens is a lot of those courses are offered only in the spring. So you want to kind of be careful about how and when you're going to take your applications courses, because if there's one or two of those that you know you really want, you need to make sure you're planning them for the spring, because they're usually offered in the spring, although not 100% always. So that's kind of my biggest piece of advice to you, is to kind of, when you look at guide.berkeley.edu, if you go to any of those courses, it'll show you, hey, this was offered in spring 2017, spring 2018, spring 2019, and then maybe it'll say fall 2019. So you can kind of guess, okay, so why did this one course fall out of the norm? And maybe I should ask Julia if it's going to continue to this other semester pattern, or if it's going to revert back to its usual pattern. So that's something that you ought to look at. CE 11 and CE 167 are required courses that are only offered in the fall. So if you're deciding to take that in the fall semester, you're going to want to make sure you sign up for those classes early on in your enrollment window. Everybody gets a span of several weeks to enroll in classes we call phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, if you want to take CE11 next fall, you got to sign up for it during phase 1. Same with 167. So those are my pieces of advice for that. And I'm willing and able to meet with you at any time to go over those types of things. Because right now you're probably not thinking about that. You've got your fall classes going, but for the future, just keep in mind that you kind of have to plan things out.
Thank you, Julia. This is all I've planned to talk about. What have I forgotten, Julia? What should we still mention? Should we talk more about the competition teams or?
No, I think if you go to the ASCE meeting or if you go to the expo here, you'll find the teams, you'll find ASCE there. ASCE is kind of like student government in high school, and the teams all fall under ASCE. So the teams are very specific. This is, Steel Bridge, or this is environmental, and ASCE works with everybody. So you can belong to, teams and ASCE, or just one or just the other. But making those connections, you'll find that other students can give you way better advice than anybody else in the department.
Well, with the possible exception of you, but yeah, they can give
they do better than I do.
It's also a good way of learning a bit about CEE in those first couple of years when you're still taking a lot of the fundamentals courses. Yeah. And the thing is, if you should consider maybe joining a team or two for the first year if you find you really like those teams and you continue with them in year 2. But if you think you want to try something else, you can try a new team the next year. So you can sample.
Yep.
It's worth considering, that's for sure.
It is.
What else? What about questions from you guys? There's still 23 of you with us. Thank you for your patience and for enduring me. What are there questions we might be able to try to answer? We have, as I say, we have Julia, so we have an expert question answerer here. Is there an expo for the transportation team?
I didn't see one.
Oh, that's too bad, because there is a transportation team.
There is. What's interesting about the transportation team is that it's probably the team that has the most students in it that are from a variety all over campus. So most of our teams are, mostly CEE, but transportation has a lot of students from a lot of majors. So that's an interesting team.
So operations research, computer science, that kind of mechanical engineering.
Yeah, city planning.
City planning, of course. Yeah. What else? What other questions might you have? Professor Cassidy, what courses do you teach? The undergrad level, thank you for asking, Hudson. I teach a course called CE 155, usually in the spring. It'll be this spring. Most students are sophomores or juniors, some are seniors, but I hope you'll consider taking it. It is a course called Transportation Engineering Systems, and it looks at a variety of aspects of transportation, operations, and planning.
And it's a lecture and a lab, right?
It is a lecture and a lab, yes. A 3-hour lab every week, designing something that's kind of akin to what you see in the real world. Is it possible to take graduate level courses? Yes, it is possible. So the question is it possible to take graduate level courses during undergraduate years? Yes, right? As seniors with a reasonable GPA, you can take 3.0, not doesn't have to be super high, but has to be strong. Mm-hmm. You can take graduate courses and have those count towards your bachelor's degree. And many students do that and tend to enjoy that. Mm-hmm. What types of questions should we ask our faculty advisor, and what types of questions should we ask our major advisor? Julia, you are so good at this thing. Why don't you take Emily's question?
Okay. So I think you're asking like major advisor being me. So I talk to a lot of students who will come to me and ask me about, questions about what classes are coming up and that type of thing. But also, I tend to be the person that, if you're having trouble in a class and it's not necessarily subject matter, it's more personal. Maybe you've had some roommate issues, or maybe you've had some this year illness issues, and you need to talk to somebody about that and how to work that out. So a lot of students will come and talk to me about those types of things. But faculty, usually you're going to go to talk to faculty either because you're in their class or because you just want to start saying, hey, you know what? I looked at the department website and I looked up your name and I saw that you're doing research in hydrology or transportation systems or whatever. And can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I'm kind of thinking about maybe that's the area I want to go into, but I'm not really sure. And then once you open that, faculty are usually pretty verbal. and they, like all of us, we like to talk about what we do. We love what we do, and faculty love what they do in their research, and they're happy to share that kind of information.
Yeah, that's very important. Now I see Osvaldo has an important question that I guess I'll take on, where the answer. Yeah, the answer is not. The answer is not a happy one. So as Osvaldo is kind of implying, our intent this year was to offer the new CE 92 once in the fall and again in the spring. As I mentioned, you may recall this fall we're going to have CE 92, the cornerstone design course, to have a kind of a systems engineering flavor. Our intent was in the spring to have the course that's a little more focused, to focus on structural design, where students would, according to follow a certain criteria and design a scale model of a structural system like a truss or something like that to meet certain criteria. All right, well, I'm very sorry to say that the virus has put the halt on our plans for having CE 92B in the spring. It's just not going to happen this year, and I'm terribly sorry for that. Some of us worked kind of hard to create that course, but it's not going to be possible. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Nadiv. But here's the problem. At present time, there's no way to prepare for that course. There's no way. And the instructor was planning on doing it in the summer and this fall. And with the shelter-in-place orders and our inability to get into Jacob's lab space, there's just no way to prepare the course. I'm terribly sorry. And they're only for freshmen. Yes, the 92 is a freshman class, but maybe we can make allowances and have sophomores take it next year, assuming things go back to normal. Mm-hmm. And this is very disappointing news. We made that determination, I think, last Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that just kind of reminds me about being in our building. So Davis Hall is our building. Almost everything that happens in civil happens in Davis Hall. We do some things in O'Brien, but I like to think of Davis as being my building. But what's interesting is not only can we not be in that building for classes, there's very limited research that's going on, and faculty, staff are also, we just can't go to Davis Hall. We have to get permission well in advance and have a reason and a justification for why we have to go in. And since March, I've been in the building twice for about 10 minutes each time to pick something up from my office. So it's hard for you guys not to be there, but no, we feel your pain.
Yes. I mean, just like we had to cancel I should say, put a temporary hold on our undergraduate research opportunity program. CE 92B is another casualty of this pandemic, at least for this year. I wish it were not true.
And also, there was a question a little earlier about finishing a master's in just 1 year.
Yes, the master's program here at Berkeley and CEE is designed to be taken in 1 year. And with rare exception, just about every master's student completes his or her studies in 2 semesters, fall and spring. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, somebody needs an extra semester, but that's quite rare. Anything else? I'd love to hear your questions. Glad to hear some of you incoming students are already thinking about grad school. That's great. That's great. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, here's one. It seems that there's a lot to think about right now. What are things we should be prioritizing? Yeah, that's a good question. Julie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
That's a
so
good question, Emily.
the department is bombarding you, College of Engineering is bombarding you, the university is bombarding you, and everything's coming to you via email. I think what you should really concentrate on more than anything else is getting started in your classes.
Yeah.
And then secondary to that is making a connection either through your class or through a CEE team, and making some connections with some other civil students. Those are the two things. But classes should always come first in terms of your university experience.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
health.
I would just echo, I was thinking exactly the same thing as Julia said, and I would just echo kind of developing a mindset now as we embark on the first week of classes. How is it that you're going to try to stay on top of things? What kind of routine are you going to develop so that you don't just watch videotape courses 2 weeks after they've been delivered, or asynchronous videos, a week or 2 weeks after? Stay on top of things. Don't let things slip, because it's kind of like a house of cards. Things can start collapsing. So that's what I would say. Think about not just the courses, but how you're going to stay on top of those courses in the first few weeks when it's so difficult, and it's so much extra difficulty because of this pandemic. Now, Nirav has a question about being interested in structures and transportation. Well, Nirav, I'd say, you're halfway right. No. It is true that if you pursue a master's degree, you're going to have to specify one of the emphases over the other. In the master's program, you have some flexibility to take courses outside your major. So transportation students can take a structures course, and I think a structure student could probably take a transportation graduate course. But it's not very easy to do a lot of both. I would say, though, as you're sort of getting started, in all likelihood, during the course of your studies, one of those two emphases, whether it's structures or transportation, is probably going to rise to the top. In fact, it's also possible that you find that neither of those suit you best. Maybe you'll decide you really want to do environmental or systems or something like that. So it's good that you're thinking about these things. It's really good. But you also have to kind of let go a little bit and trust, and just kind of believe that as you start taking courses and learning about the different programs, the answer as to which thing you want to, which specialty you want to emphasize in a master's program is probably going to come to light to you. Okay. Now we hear that structural is a GOAT specialization. Well, I didn't say that, but
Okay, I don't understand.
Right. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know what that means, Mike.
No, that's John. Do you want to flesh that idea out a little more? Greatest of all time. Oh, I thought it was just for goats. Oh, okay, well, all right, John. We live in a democracy. So.
But there's a lot of
Tom Brady is a goat. Okay.
Isn't there a lot of overlap between all the different specializations in civil, Mike?
What is that? Oh, are they all the greatest?
No, isn't there a lot of
greater than others, but
integration between, you have to know something about structural engineering to do transportation and vice versa, a little bit.
I think so. I think getting a little breath is always a good thing, especially at the undergrad level. Certainly at the graduate level, specializing is the way things work. But trying to stay a little broad at the undergrad level is not a bad way to go. But again, everybody's different. Some people just know that structures is the GOAT, and nothing, and everything they're gonna learn in their undergrad years is going to confirm that belief. So go ahead, emphasize structures as an undergrad if you're sure. You got to kind of follow your heart.
Well, I appreciate
really appeal to you most.
Taught something new.
Hmm?
Okay. Up to speed. I like GOAT. I learned something today.
I'm going to go to my kids and I'm going to tell them I didn't know what GOAT meant, and they're going to laugh at me, just like Emily's laughing out loud. Okay. Can we do 2 years of the master's program and get 2 masters in different specializations within civil? No, actually, that's a good question, but the University of California does not allow any sort of duplication of master's degrees. So if you got a master's degree in any aspect of civil engineering, not only could you not get a master's in another aspect of civil engineering, you couldn't even get a master's here in another engineering. You couldn't go to mechanical, or you couldn't go to IEOR. Sometimes they make exceptions if you can make an argument, but Oh,
And there are
okay. Robin didn't know what GOAT was either. Oh, okay, Robin. Thank you for
children.
collaborating with us. But back to Ellie's question, you really can't get 2 masters in engineering at the University of California.
Right, but there are a couple of joint master's programs.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
Right?
But
You can get it.
that's right. But they're kind of
joint-
pre-designed. They're pre-designed masters. So, for example, you can get a joint master's in architecture and structural engineering. You can get a joint master's in transportation and city planning. And I suppose there are a few others I can't think of right now, but that's something you can look into. Do a lot of students in civil engineering have a minor? Yeah, Julia, why don't you take that one?
A lot. There are some. So one thing that sometimes is confusing is that if you are a civil engineer, you would not get a minor in our department. Minors are for students outside of the department. So as a civil engineer, you might get a minor in public policy or global poverty. I've seen some of those. And if you're an architecture student, you might get a minor in our department for structural engineering. So minors for
A
outside.
civil engineer could get a minor in architecture, right?
I don't know that they really offer that.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess there's a kind of a limited menu from which to pick.
Right.
But
But there are students who do minors.
any other questions? As you can see, Julia is hard to stump. So try to ask a really tough one. See if you can stump Julia. I can't.
Well, I thought you said it was hard to stop.
Hard to stump. Hard to ask you a question that you cannot answer. I wanted to do a business minor, but it's not available.
That's true.
Yeah.
The School of Business does not offer minors.
Right. It's very hard to get into a business class here on the Berkeley campus unless you're in the major.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, what I can tell you, Nirav, is that we, in some specialties within civil engineering, namely transportation and systems, we have something called a Master of Engineering program, where it's a 1-year program where you would take technical courses in the civil engineering field of interest, plus courses in the business school to learn about the management of technology. So that's something you might want to look at. Maybe the MEng, the Master of Engineering program, would be something of interest to you. Yeah, can civil engineers go into other fields like automotive and aerospace? Yeah, absolutely. Civil engineering is really a wonderful background to gain fundamentals, to learn how to think, like a scientist or an engineer. And that can open up other doors for you, either professionally or through graduate study. Civil engineering, indeed, can be a foundation to propel you in many different directions, including the ones you mentioned, including the business world, including policy, and so forth. During the adjustment period, can I enroll in 2 courses that conflict before I pick one? Julia, that is a question for you if ever I heard one.
Yeah, that is. No, you cannot. But if you email me and we can work it out, and I can, normally it wouldn't matter because you would just show up in person and go to both classes. But, in the online world, you want to be in each of the faculty's class lists so you can go to classes online. So if you'll email me, we can have a little bit more of a discussion, and I can help you do that.
That's probably true, Ellie. Your question about, or your statement about architecture being very intensive. Yeah, my understanding is city planning can also be a bit intensive too, but maybe not so much at the undergrad level. I'm not sure, but certainly that's something to look into. Sustainable design. Yeah. Well, all right. I think we're 21 of you have stayed with us. Thank you so much for doing that. We're grateful. Let me just say that Julia and I, and really all the faculty and staff, really want to extend now our best wishes as we start on our first week of instruction and as we go through this otherwise difficult semester. Please keep in mind to reach out to us as needed. Really, we wish you the very best now as we get started, and we look forward to getting to know you as best we can through a computer screen for now anyway. and face-to-face, hopefully very soon. All right. Julia, anything you want to?
Yeah, hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow at the faculty meet
Yes.
and greet, and then on Thursday at the ASCE meeting. So
All right.
we're really excited to have you.
Do come.
Awesome.
Do come. Yeah, we are very happy to have you. Thank you for coming.